But some of the things that massage does is, when you get a trigger point or an ache in a muscle, that muscle has a toxic buildup in it. And when you hold pressure on that area, you hold pressure for 8 to 10 seconds and you release the pressure, that brings in blood flow and it flushes out those things that have been hanging in that knotted up muscle.
To having someone to be able to talk to bring some a little bit of calm into your life. And I learned this in police work a lot too. When somebody was angry, if you'll lower your voice down a little bit in the middle of them talking loud, they will match you. But if you elevate your voice over them, they will match you.
There was one thing that the people could really, really own. That would be the understanding of the power, the role, the duty, the responsibility, the authority of our states.
Everybody loves a good massage. I get it. We all do. But did you know there are some massive benefits other than just relaxation for massage? I can ask the expert, former massage therapist, doctor now, Michele Sherwood. So tell us about massage. You used to be a massage therapist, huh?
I did. I was a neuromuscular therapist, and I have helped more people heal with my hands than I ever have with my prescription pad.
Whoa. Say that one more time. That's really good. I like that.
I have helped heal more people with my hands than I ever have with my prescription pad.
Man, I wish that statement right there would be on marquees around every single physician's office ever, because the idea that you just said you can heal more people with your hands, just touching somebody. And I mean, that can be metaphorically and also physically. But there is healing in that, isn't there? As opposed to just a management with a pill.
There is, and there's so many benefits to a good, it doesn't have to be a deep tissue massage, but some of the things that massage does is, when you get a trigger point or an ache in a muscle, that muscle has a toxic buildup in it. And when you hold pressure on that area, you hold pressure for 8 to 10 seconds and you release the pressure, that brings in blood flow and it flushes out those things that have been hanging in that knotted up muscle. Also, ligaments and tendons don't have a blood supply. So when a good massage therapist that knows anatomy and knows where the attachments of these things are, works on those areas, it gives those ligaments and tendons a good blood bath so that they can heal. Now, one of the things I find fascinating about the human body is that if you take everything out of the human body and you just leave fascia, that white stuff that's around meat in the markets, that's fascia. If you take everything out and you leave fascia, you will have a holographic image of a person in fascia.
Yep.
Now, I can get to the top of someone's head from touching their toe through that fascial connection. So the snag in the fishnet, someone might have pain in their shoulder, but it's actually a snag that's occurring in the fascia of the foot. So massage therapy done correctly can unwind that snag in the fishnet and rebalance a system that's been out of balance for a very long time.
I think it's fascinating. You talked about two different but also integrated processes. Is straightening out the fascia, which is made of collagen.
Connective tissue.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's like that layer, that holographic image, that little thin barrier of collagen tissue that separates the skin, perhaps from the organs. And so it's just right below there, and it holds everything kind of in place. And all you're doing is straightening that out like maybe tinfoil that's been crinkled, right? Something like that. And then the other part you talked about was increasing the blood flow in areas where there's not blood flow. Key thing, there's healing in the blood. It carries oxygen and hormones and nutrients and peptides. And so if you can restore blood flow to those areas, it gives us an opportunity to get healed. So the question I would ask you as a person who knows about massages, are massages, would you consider necessary for people?
Not 100% necessary, but you take a competitive athlete, for example, who is getting beat up, bruised up, and going through intense competitive athletics on a regular basis. Getting good blood flow, oxygen, and nutrients to the tissues is going to improve the healing process, and it is going to decrease the time to recovery. So they're going to return back to their game quicker, faster, and stronger. We always say you don't want to train a body part when it's still sore. And if they're training every day, the number of days that an athlete spends sore is quite a lot. So massage therapy can be a huge benefit in a professional athlete or just somebody who's trying to take their game to the next level.
Well, and there's different type of massage therapy. I mean, there's sports massage, there's deep tissue massage, there's maybe relaxing massage, Swedish massage, kind of just very high level. Go with the differences.
So, Swedish massage is kind of like just working an oil or a lotion into the skin. It's got a rhythmic motion to it and usually a technique that goes from head to toe. Neuromuscular therapy is somebody who's been very educated on anatomy. They're going to apply pressure in certain places that bring blood flow, oxygen, and nutrients into the tissue. They're going to hold pressure for a certain amount of time and then release that pressure. There is also just somebody that does deep tissue massage that they're not necessarily as anatomically trained, but they're going to take maybe their elbow or maybe their fist or their knuckle or their the density of their thumb, and they're going to go over the tissue with a deeper amount of pressure. There are other types of massage that use tools to scrape the fascia, if you will, to bring more blood to the tissue. Sometimes those techniques actually even cause a little bit of bruising, because when that bruises, the theory is that bruising brings in those stem cells, and those stem cells precipitate the healing process.
Well, that makes sense. So there's a bunch of different things. So it's like all people are not created equal. I guess not all massages are created equal, are they?
And not everybody likes a deep tissue massage. Some people prefer a lighter type of massage. So if you're getting a massage and it's hurting you, you can tell the therapist or the practitioner to lighten up the pressure, or instead of using their elbows, they can go to their thumbs.
Very good. So that is a lot about massage, and obviously you don't do that anymore, but if people give us a call, we could provide a recommendation, I suppose.
Well, and one of the reasons I chose to become an osteopath is that all osteopaths are trained to use their hands to do craniosacral therapy, to do articular release therapies, strain, counter strains, trigger point release. So an osteopathic physician has a toolbox that is a little bit different than an MD, as well as being able to prescribe medications, send you for an X-ray or an MRI if need be.
So there you go. There's healing in them their hands right there, I tell you, honestly. But massage is great. We wouldn't say it's necessary all the time, but it's always good to have that all the time if you choose to be, choose to have that experience. So all you ever want to know about massage. Right, so give us a call, check out our website, sherwood.tv, for other subjects just like this.
And when you navigate through these economies with people, here's what happens. We want to hold their hand through it, let them know when it's time to buy, sell, reallocate, get out of Dodge. Because a lot of times when you're struck with fear does two things. Number one, it can paralyze, and people just put their head in the sand and say, I'm just going to forget about it and hopefully it gets better. Or it causes you to make a wrong decision. And this is why we are here, is to help people navigate through the political quagmire nonsense that's going on, the economic malaise, and the absolute collapse that we're seeing. And when our freedoms are eroding, our political freedoms, our economic freedoms, our personal freedoms, our religious freedoms, our health freedoms, they're all tied together. But you know what doesn't need to erode with that? Our finances.
KirkElliottPhD.com/Sherwood.
There's a lot of talk these days about human enhancement.
Terms like biohacking, bioharmonizing, biosynergizing, stacking, resilience, and anti-fragility.
In our clinic, the Functional Medical Institute, we've been helping people of all shapes, sizes, and backgrounds improve their quality of their physiology and maximize their lives.
So, you can follow the latest fads and gimmicks and maybe find some things that work for you.
Or you can add Kingdom Fuel to your daily regimen right now.
It's the simple start to a transformed life.
Our unique meal shakes are balanced, low glycemic, rich in fiber with 20 grams of clean protein, essential vitamins and minerals, healthy fats, and organic fruits and vegetables. Kingdom Fuel is vegan with a complete amino acid profile.
No gimmicks, just proven results.
Start today at sherwood.tv/fuel.
Hey there, Kevin Sorbo here. Now, deep down, we know this. We're more than just a brain and a body. We're a spirit, we're a soul, and we're also a physical temple. If you hit the wall when you're trying to improve one aspect of your being, it's probably because, well, other aspects are sabotaging our success. So that's why diets don't work. And frankly, why so much conventional wisdom from our so-called medical establishments falls flat. Doctors Michele and Mark Sherwood have a very different approach. I should know because I happen to be one of their patients. They address the whole person to get to know you, your challenges, and more importantly, what your goals are. Then they offer a complete plan that addresses your unique biology and your heart. They'll help you discover what you need to experience transformation. So find out more at sherwood.tv/sorbo. That's sherwood.tv/sorbo, or see the link before. Now, I'm heading for a workout. You should be going for a workout too. All right, guys. God bless.
Let's talk a little bit about controlling anger to help your health. Now, we know anger is a very powerful emotion that can drive you to make positive changes. However, it is also a very powerful emotion that can be destructive to your health and to those closest around you. If anger goes on for a long, long period of time, boy, those things that can be observed in your health can be high blood pressure or high tension, headaches. It can lead to stomach upset or acid reflux, or it can even lead to anxiety or depression.
Well, we got to get a hold of it, right? Because, you mentioned at the top, anger is a natural emotion.
It is.
The Bible says, be angry and sin not, or don't let the sun go down in your anger. This is translated like this into, layman's terms. It's okay to be angry as long as your anger doesn't have you. And then it's also important to not go to bed or close the day out if you're angry at someone, especially. It's okay to be angry about a situation sometimes because, like in today's world, there are people that are very frustrated with things. But when it progresses to anger, it can progress to control not just your emotions, but it can cause a counter effect on your health. And that's not what you want.
No, so the first thing we have to do is we have to learn to recognize whether or not anger is present. And if anger really is present, then we have to think about ways to control it. If you recognize that it's there, perhaps the first thing to do would be to go walk around the block and take some deep breaths to calm that sympathetic nervous system or that fight or flight, because adrenaline is just rushing through your system. And that's what's causing all those negative side effects from high blood pressure, headaches, anxiety, and the like.
Yeah, this is remember our book, Fork Your Diet?
I do.
On the cover of
What a
that
great
book, you guys
that
can see
is.
that. It says Stop Falling for the Frauds. Frauds is an acronym. And the acronym is fear, resentment, anger, unforgiveness, disappointment, and shame. So those frauds are all tied, sort of connected at the hip, if you will, with anger. And they sort of steal your identity. There's probably not anybody that's listening right now that hasn't either heard someone say this or said it themselves. I don't know who I am anymore, or because of this, I've lost my identity, or my anger has caused me to lose or forget who I am. Those type of things really do happen. We lose who we are when we allow anger or some of these other emotions to control us.
That's right. So once we identify that anchor is there and we go out and take a walk around the block to figure out why are we angry and we get to the root of the problem, oftentimes it's a particular person that's giving us, it has pushed us over the edge. What are some tips that people can do when they identify that they're having difficulty dealing with a difficult person?
All right, so remember this. This is number one, and I do this a lot when I'm in the office talking to people. It's going to sound weird. Some of you might have been there, and you see me do this. I'll put my hands right here on my belly, just like this, and I will do what's called diaphragmatic breathing, which actually will slow your heart rate. And I try to keep my heart rate down when I'm talking to somebody in the 70s, low 70s. What I try to do as a max. So I'm actually watching it on my little watch here, but I'll put my hands on my belly and I'll do diaphragmatic breathing. What is that? I'm going to push the breath down. So when I inhale, my stomach comes out, my shoulders don't come up. When I exhale,
Just how far does that stomach come out?
a long ways. If you're good at it, you can push that abdominal muscle out. You could even force yourself to have a quasi-looking beer belly by diaphragmatic breathing.
Heavens.
No, I'm just kidding about that. So you can push it out, push it in. So if you keep your hands here, and you can even do that at night if you want to help yourself sleep, you can put a book here and try to raise the book up and raise the book down. I guarantee you it will slow the heart rate down. It will slow you from a stress response to a non-stress response, and your ability to feel the anger will also go down. You might be a little agitated still, but your ability to sort of become full-blown angry will go down.
That's why going for a walk can be so helpful. Is walking makes you breathe a little harder, or not harder,
Does.
or breathe more than what you would be just sitting in a chair. So
Yeah.
breathing actually calms down that fight or flight, and it increases the rest and relax, or the parasympathetic side of the nervous system. So
Yep.
breathing is a good way. What about somebody finding an advocate or somebody that you can talk to about maybe learning to express your anger differently?
It's called a vent, right? Everybody needs to vent sometimes, and it's okay. And with that said, the greatest thing you can do, like I was reading a devotional just yesterday, I think, on venting, and it was tied to sort of God allowing us to vent to Him. Well, that's true. We can. If you want to yell at Him, you can. I'm sure He can take that. If you want to vent, He can take that too. But the greatest thing that we can do to that is be the person that people can vent to, or they can get heard. You know, people want to get heard. So I think it goes down to having someone to be able to talk to bring some a little bit of calm into your life. And I learned this in police work a lot too. When somebody was angry, if you'll lower your voice down a little bit in the middle of them talking loud, they will match you. But if you elevate your voice over them, they will match you. So you actually can control the conversation a little bit, even in your own life, by controlling the tempo of how you speak and the level of how you speak and the tone of how you speak. It's kind of called verbal judo, if you will, but it's actually verbally controlling a situation. And you can do that with yourself, or you can do it with other people.
Yeah, so anger is a normal emotion. It's not a bad thing. We need to understand the triggers, what's triggering that anger, so it doesn't become explosive and destructive, so we can control those long-term health effects that it may have: high blood pressure, anxiety, insomnia, bitterness, and the list goes on. Because oftentimes it's not necessarily what you're eating, it's what's eating you. And those tips about how to manage anger, you got to recognize that it's there. Go for a walk, change your breathing, change that sympathetic tone and calm it down, and maybe even find somebody that you can confide in to help you walk through a difficult situation and maybe approach a difficult person differently.
Maybe look at it like this: ABCs. Admit you got it, admit you have it. B, believe you can change it. And C, commit to do that, right? That's very important to think about, because anger can control you if you don't control it, correct?
Absolutely. And then in terms of supplementation, there's a couple things you can take to kind of calm the internal system. One is simple magnesium.
Yeah.
Magnesium kind of calms that internal fire, can calm the brain down, and so can GABA.
So there you go. There's some supplements, there's some tips for you to help you and all of us not be angry people, because we know anger is not good for the world when it controls the world. So we need to bring some calm. How about us make a commitment to be a little more calm? What does our Constitution really mean, and how do we interpret it? Find out next with our constitutional attorney expert, Chris Ann Holmes.
Let's get real. Most emergency food is just as bad for you as any other choice in the standard American diet. And that's just sad.
We don't just need food, we need highly nutritional food.
We don't just want to survive food shortages, we are meant to thrive in adversity.
Complete your daily nutrition and have shelf-stable Kingdom Fuel as a cornerstone of your food supply.
Don't sacrifice your health or your taste buds.
Stock up on Kingdom Fuel now.
And when you navigate through these economies with people, here's what happens. We want to hold their hand through it, let them know when it's time to buy, sell, reallocate, get out of Dodge. Because a lot of times when you're struck with fear does two things. Number one, it can paralyze, and people just put their head in the sand and say, I'm just going to forget about it and hopefully it gets better. Or it causes you to make a wrong decision. And this is why we are here, is to help people navigate through the political quagmire nonsense that's going on, the economic malaise, and the absolute collapse that we're seeing. And when our freedoms are eroding, our political freedoms, our economic freedoms, our personal freedoms, our religious freedoms, our health freedoms, they're all tied together. But you know what doesn't need to erode with that? Our finances.
KirkElliottPhD.com/Sherwood.
You know, people often ask me, what has been the most destructive lie the American people have been taught about the federal government and the U.S. Constitution? Now, Doc, you and I have talked about this on a previous segment, but it really boils down to the lie that the Supremacy Clause in the Constitution establishes that the federal government and federal laws are superior to state laws and state constitution. Now, our previous segment went into detail and explained how that is absolutely not true. And just a simple reading of Article 6, Clause 2, which is the Supremacy Clause, proves that. But you see, with that deception that has really infested the minds and politics of American government, we have had a falling away of the understanding of governors and attorneys general and even the people of their states of the power and the duty and the responsibility of the state to stand against the exercise of unauthorized federal power. And if there was one thing that I want the American people to really know today, if there was one thing that the American people could know that would change the whole dynamic. I'm not usually a one thing person, right? Because I understand that life is multifaceted and there are many solutions to a single problem and there are complications and details that need to be worked out. So I'm never really a one thing person, but in this situation, there was one thing that the people could really own. That would be the understanding of the power, the role, the duty, the responsibility, the authority of our states to say to the federal government, I'm sorry, that the Constitution does not authorize the exercise of that power, and we will not comply. And so in that authority, we have a solution to nearly every single federal problem that we see today. The ATF gun grab. States actually have the authority and the duty to say, no, we're not going to let you enforce those laws in our state because there's no authority for you to govern what we sell and how our people keep and bear arms within our states. There's no authority for you for that. No, we're not going to let your Environmental Protection Agency come in and rule and reign over our land. And by the way, the FDA and the USDA, sorry, we don't find that authority in the Constitution. Because remember, we're the states that created the federal government. We're the creators of the federal government. And as the creators of the federal government, we have the authority to say, you know what, we didn't create you with that power. So that power does not exist to be authorized in our state. Not only are we not going to help you exercise that power, but we're not going to let you exercise that power on our people. The Department of Education, the Department of Interior, the Department of Ag, the Forestry Service, all of these organizations are extra constitutional. And according to Article 6, Clause 2, if their power is not exercised pursuant to the Constitution, the power is null and void. And what the American people and our governors and our attorneys general need to understand is that applies to the judiciary as well. The Supreme Court's authority is limited and defined by Article 3. The Supreme Court and federal court authority is limited and defined by the powers delegated to the federal government. So if the power, the authority is not delegated to the federal government, the federal judiciary doesn't have jurisdiction over the matter. So if there is no authority for delegated to the federal government to rule and reign over what we eat, what we drink, what we smoke, what we ingest, what we wear, what we buy, what we sell, how we live, how do we use our resources in our states, all these things that happen internally in the state, then the Supreme Court has no jurisdiction over those matters either. So we have to understand, and we really have to own this, that our states not only have an authority, they have a responsibility to say no. And we have this information documented for you in our book, Sovereign Duty. We have this information documented for you in a film we call Non-Compliant Movie that can be found at noncompliantmovie.com. And we want to help you know this because all political powers derive from the people, and the people have to stand for the proper application of their Constitution in order to defend their rights. So thank you, Doc, for letting me bring this information to the people. There are many ways to come to this understanding. We want to help you with some of them, but that's the one thing I wish everybody would know right now.